Hey, today I thought I would talk about counseling because this is a counseling heavy week in our house. I realize that might be unusual for people, so I thought it might be helpful for me to share the role counseling plays in our family. I did ask my husband if I could make this video, and he did not say no. So here I am making the video. So yesterday I saw my counselor. Tomorrow morning we will see our marriage counselor, and Friday my husband will see his counselor. We have been seeing our marriage counselor since April 2020, and we currently see her every 6 weeks. I've been seeing my current therapist for about 5 weeks, and my husband's been seeing his therapist since July. So I'll share about how we got here, I guess, and why I think it's important. I've realized everyone is not, like, counseling isn't a part of everyone's lives or even their culture or like vernacular. So I really do hope that me talking about it can help people who have questions, but it's not as common amongst their friends and family, so they're not getting the perspective that they need. Okay, so my background with counseling. Well, before we get into that, I'm Brianna. This is my channel about entrepreneurship and life and being a mom and an ambitious mom. If you're interested, if you've been watching me, please subscribe to my channel or like my Facebook page, and please like the video. All right, so I first started going to counseling when I was like a preschooler because my mom told me that she lost my twin. And when I was really little, I would say, I feel like a part of me is missing. So I saw a counselor for that some. And my mom went to counseling a lot because she had some mental health issues, and I would go with her. So I've been around counseling all my life. She actually had a counselor that would come to the house, and she was always late. And sometimes we would go in her station wagon to various places. So yeah, counseling. I saw a counselor my senior year of college because I needed help with my relationship. I felt like I was in an abusive relationship, but I just needed somebody else to say it. She didn't help me in the relationship, but she did give me confidence. And I'm kind of smiling because what helped me in the relationship was I was really having a hard time with everything he was going through. And I was at the track because I was a track athlete. I was working out and just on my own before school started, before like the school year started. And I couldn't like finish lifting. I went in the bathroom and I was crying. And the sprint coach, black woman, she came in the bathroom and locked the door, and she was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I told her, and she was like, "Everything is telling you, your body is telling you, you need to end this relationship." And it was just funny because she locked herself in the bathroom with me. And she, prior to that, like just wouldn't have been somebody I went to for advice. Anyway, so I did a few sessions with the therapist at school. Then when I was 26, that's when I did my real work in therapy. And that was initiated by me like having a breakdown when I was working at the life insurance place. And there are 2 videos on my channel about that. So I went and just I did the work to understand why I felt like life was so hard for me and why I had so much trouble in society. And so I was able to understand that. She taught me to say, it's okay for me to say when I meet somebody, sometimes people don't know how to take me, but I promise you I'm nice. And I have used that. I don't know if it helps, but I have used that because people don't know how to take me. So I saw her for probably 2 years. And then when I was pregnant, she just didn't, like, something happened and she went away, and then they put me with this other lady. And then my therapist came back and nobody told me, and I was mad. So I didn't go back for like a year until right before I moved. But I really appreciate her. Her name was Anne because she really helped me acclimate to life. She helped me initiate the healing process and just really understand that there's not exactly something wrong with me, but it's just like a lot of the ways people act, like a lot of human nature affected me negatively, but I didn't have to internalize that. So then when I moved back to St. Louis, I was having a really hard time with the transition and my loss of identity and living in a dump. It wasn't a real dump. It was just like, I just hated the place so much. So at the point at which I was holding my pee so I could pee at the gas station, I knew I needed help. So I saw a therapist twice, but she didn't remember me till like 20 minutes into the second session. That's when she remembered the first session, and so I just didn't want to go back. One of my issues with therapy is that I know that people don't know how to take me. So I haven't been very confident in finding someone because I don't have confidence that they will be able to understand what I need, because I am very self-aware. I honestly, I should be a therapist. My first therapist told me I should be a therapist. I did start a master's of social work program, but it didn't work out. So I think sometimes they just don't really know how to receive me. So that makes me hesitate. But I went this year because with what my husband's dealing with, what he's going through with his therapy, I just needed more support. I needed to be able to process things on my own. And I just need that anyway, to be honest, because I be thinking like some big thoughts. I need somebody to listen. So I started to see someone referred to me by a friend. Now, my husband has been going to therapy since July. In November 2017, his dad passed away unexpectedly. At the time, my husband was in Afghanistan and I was pregnant. It really didn't seem like it affected my husband. Like he didn't go through a depression. He didn't act sad, or he didn't cry a lot. He really didn't respond to it. But I think there are some things that make it clear that that was something that he still needed to work through. So this year, I have mentioned before that I read the book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. When I read the book, I kind of realized that some of the things that I feel like I don't get from my husband, probably all of them, are really things that, like, kind of a wound created by my dad, or like this deficit created by my dad. So I was like, I need to lay off him, because I want stuff from him that it was never for him to give. And if I'm constantly being the victim and like just complaining, how does that put somebody in a position to change or like do the work that they need to do to, move forward and grow? So I decided, you know what, I'm going to back off and I'm just going to support him. I want to make him feel supported so that he can do the work he needs to do, because until he does, he's not going to be able to meet these needs I'm complaining about. So that was my strategy. And I just tried to stop complaining and stop taking everything personal that I didn't like. It wasn't always about me. It can just be about him and affect me. So my art therapist last summer had also suggested that he do EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. The way I explain it, I haven't done it, but from what I understand, it's like discharging triggers, basically. So that's what she had suggested for him to do. So I came back around. I sent him information. Once we confirmed that with her, that's what she had said, I sent him some information about EMDR and talked to him about it. Weeks later, I sent him 3 providers that work with our insurance. I also started to shift my focus from how my husband going to therapy would benefit me or our family to just how it would benefit him, and I would talk about those benefits as they came up. And like a month or 2 later, we had a talk and I was like, I need you to go to therapy. But I was really trying to let it be on him. But I just kind of got to a point right before vacation. We always have a fight right before we go on vacation. But I just got to a point where I realized I really needed to stress how much I needed for him to go to therapy. And, we went on a family vacation with his family, and then I went on a vacation with my friend. And when I came back from that vacation, he had booked his appointment for the following Saturday. And there was an immediate change, and things were really good for about a month or two. And then, but people told me with EMDR, it gets worse before it gets better. And it definitely got worse. And I was really trying to make space for him to, do what he needed to do and not worry about me. But, somebody had to worry about me. So that's why I got the therapist. But anyway, that's how I got my husband to go to therapy. I tried to create a supportive environment because I don't feel like I don't think people want, when they feel beat down or they feel defeated or like they keep messing up, I don't think they necessarily want to go talk to somebody to confirm that they aren't doing their best work, So I just wanted to try to eliminate that element to our relationship, because I was definitely being like that, although I wouldn't say I'm a nagger. Anyway, so us going to marriage counseling, the first time we went to marriage counseling was 2018, October 2018. I called Military One Source, as we were a military family at the time. It's a great resource. I use them for my therapy, the first person I saw, and we use them for the therapist we have now.
Military One Source provides 12 free sessions for military service members and their families, and they offer a variety of services. So after we did the 12 sessions, we began to pay $75 a session.
So we went to this lady and we did 3 sessions with her. It was really good to have basically another adult in the conversation, kind of like a parent almost, to say, okay, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, not like you shouldn't be doing this, but I could say, I feel like this is unfair. And then we have this person who says that is unfair. Why are you making this choice? And this is what you can do instead. That was really helpful. And that's really what she provided. She was able to validate some of what I was saying. And then she was also able to create some decorum in our conversation. So we weren't fighting as much. We were talking more. But we only saw her 3 times because I felt like she was just working kind of surface, and I felt like we needed deeper support. Again, my husband's dad had died the year before, so I felt like that was relevant. Then we started going to therapy again in 2020. Again, we called Military One Source. Even though we were out of the military, we had benefits for a year with Military One Source. So I called April 5th, and April 6th was the last day that we have benefits. So we picked her just because there were only 2 virtual providers in Missouri, and there was actually only one because the other one didn't do it. So I did my first session. I did the first session by myself because my husband couldn't be there. We needed to do virtual because at the time my husband was working on his master's degree and an internship and working. So it just wasn't feasible for us to go somewhere with a 1-year-old, or I guess a 2-year-old. So I did the first session by myself, and then I did a couple in there by myself. She does a hard 45. At 45 minutes, she's like, okay, guys, when do you want to get on the schedule next? So you might get 50 minutes out of her, but it's very effective. And it costs us $75, which is much cheaper than anything else. I think most people's is $150. And we pay $75. And most insurances do not cover marriage counseling. I used to work at Blue Cross North Carolina, and they did not cover marriage counseling because it's not really related to your individual health, whatever. They also didn't do family therapy, but I did do therapy with my dad a couple months ago, and it was like, it was billed under me, and it was like with family member present. So that's one way you can do that. Now, what I like about our therapist, her name is Dr. Jacqueline Keitel, is that she does not stay on the surface. She like takes it all in, and then she was really able to get at the root of, like, get at the motivation, I guess the root of like some of the conflicts we were having, instead of just dealing with the conflict, which is important to mitigate the tension and the resistance, but she got under it. And what I really, really like about her is that she has never once singled either of us out. She was able to say, I think this is going on, but in a way that wasn't putting the blame on anyone. Sometimes I hear that people have therapists and the therapist is like siding with one person. And there's no way, that's just not conducive to coming together. She knows that we want to be married. So her coaching is for us to be married. So it's not going to help for her to be like, you're so messed up, you make mistakes all the time, and you're the problem here. That's not going to help. That's not going to bring us together. Instead, she'll say something general like, sometimes in relationships, we just have to accept that the other person is not able or willing to give us what we want. And really, she's saying like, girl, he ain't gonna change. And she hasn't said that, but we've had moments like that, but that's not where we are right now, because we've been doing this for a long time. But so that's really important. That's what I want people to look for. You want a therapist that's impartial and does not take sides and tactful, and a therapist that is looking at overall problems, like, instead of just the behavior. So the first therapist we saw, my husband was complaining about the house not being clean when he came home. I heard that, but what I had a problem was how he was addressing me about it. And instead of her dealing with how he was addressing me about it, she was just trying to get me to strategize how to make the house cleaner. Because I was like, I don't care about the house being clean if I don't feel like he's showing me respect in this request. So to me, it's important that they are able to prioritize the issues and also not just get caught up on what's happening on the surface and never address the underlying motivators. So we did 12 sessions with her, and it was like monthly, and we really didn't have one main problem. We were just kind of having an issue, like, I guess a difference, like, I want this, he wants this, and so we wanted to come together and kind of like discover that. And it, the threshold for doing it is much lower when you don't have to pay for it, since like we didn't. But I do think that the threshold should be low as it is. But I think for some reason people have all these problems, and then they just, I don't know why going to therapy is not the first line of defense. They have all these problems, and it's just like they go on Facebook and then people tell them to go to therapy. But I think the threshold for going to therapy should be lower. It's like, I guess also as a person who does it, it seems like, I guess it's kind of a luxury to me, but it's also not a luxury. It's like, yeah, you can do without it, but why would you? Yes, they used to have outhouses instead of indoor bathrooms, but like, why would you not use an indoor bathroom? That's how I feel about it. So when I say we go to therapy, it's not because we're on the brink of divorce. It's just because, why would I not?
I think a good entry point for going to therapy as a couple would be if you are having persistent conflict that you never make progress on. So even if it's something that's not extremely disruptive, if it's recurring and you're not making progress, I think that's a good reason to see a therapist.
We were doing once a month, but I find we don't really have something to talk about once a month. 6 weeks seemed good for us, and she gets booked really fast, or she gets booked far out. So 6 weeks is enough time where we got something to talk about, as opposed to like just skipping the appointment at 4 weeks because we didn't have anything to talk about. And we have skipped appointments before because we didn't have anything to talk about. But it's good to have somebody who can just like keep you guys centered and keep you guys fair to each other, because they are a part of the conversation and they just can see things that you can't, and validate things that you don't validate or can't validate. Like, I don't know why it was so hard for me to ask for a day off, a morning off, really. And that's one thing we established during one of our last sessions was on Wednesdays, Spencer will get up with my son instead of me. So that's not like a life-shattering conflict. It's just something that was a problem, but we weren't really being proactive enough to solve it. Partly because I wasn't honoring myself enough to ask for that. So I think there's a lot of value in just having someone that can be that for you. Now, for the people who are having real problems, I think that people don't want to do therapy because then you're admitting you have a problem. But I mean, you got a problem regardless of if you call a therapist. Like, a problem is a problem. And if it's even crossing your mind at all, you should just do it, because you're only wasting time. You could be closer to the solution instead of thinking about getting close to the solution. So I would say do it. Personal therapy is the same. Again, with both of them, you need, well, I don't know if I said this, but you might need to try different therapists, unfortunately. And that can take time, but it's so worth it. I mean, we need help. Like, we don't know how to do everything. I have some great friends in my life that tell me straight. Like, my neighbor and her husband both give me feedback on stuff because they have done a lot of work on themselves. I'm blessed to have them as neighbors, but a lot of y'all don't. A lot of y'all have a bunch of ignorant people around you, and you need a therapist who can get you on the right path. Now, my copay for my insurance is $25. Again, working at Blue Cross, the last year I worked there, the mental health copay was lowered to the same as primary care, which is usually your cheapest copay. So I guess that's what my current insurance is doing. So it's $25. Some people's isn't as nice, but it really is worth it. You will waste money on something else. It's important to, like, you can't get past this stuff if you don't know how to get past it. Time doesn't just fix everything. You need to understand what's going on and know how to heal it, know how to correct it. And sometimes you can't even see what's wrong. You're just having symptoms that are signaling what's wrong, but you're just focused on the symptoms as opposed to like the root of it. And a therapist can help you with that. So I know some people are like, they don't want to spend the money, but you're just not. It's like if you needed to get braces, you're not going to put braces on yourself. Like, you're going to have to go to somebody to get the braces. And I think therapy is the same way. Yeah, you might find somebody who can give you wisdom, but it's worth it to just spend the money and get the help you need and get past this point so that you can be more productive in your life. Also, when I go to therapy, I usually try to have an idea of what I need to talk about and what I kind of want to get out of it, which I think might be part of my problem, because they're like, I mean, sure, I got this figured out. But I do think that it's helpful to go with an idea of what you want to talk about and how the therapist can help. Because otherwise you might just be talking and you might feel leave feeling like you didn't accomplish anything. With marriage counseling, it's definitely the same. Sometimes I'll talk to my husband ahead of time about what I want to talk about or what we want to talk about. And I don't try to do a bunch of things at once, and you have to like prioritize what you want to talk about. But that's helpful. When my husband went to counseling ahead of time, I mean, I did this for myself too, but ahead of time I asked, what do you want to get out of counseling? And he had his answers, and then I had my answers. I wrote them down, and then I asked what he felt he needed to address in counseling, and then I wrote down what I felt he needed to address, because I was basically the catalyst for him going. So that's the only reason that I was giving my 2 cents. But I sent him with that so that when the therapist asked, it wasn't up to him to relay why I wanted him to be there, what was important to me. I also made it clear that I did not want to be involved in his therapy. I don't expect that, and he doesn't have to share with me what they talk about if he doesn't want to. I just wanted to make it clear, like, that's their process, and I don't have to be a part of it, even though I'm hoping to benefit from it. I just, sometimes it's hard for people. They want it to be private, and you have to be sensitive to that. They might not know how to say that, or they might not feel that they're entitled to that, but they are. It's private. It can be private from you if it's your partner that's going. And I also say this, my current therapist, when I first met her, she said that if she sees me in public, she won't say hi, which I thought was funny, but I think it's like something good to note. And also, they often don't like shake hands with you. And my first therapist, she just said hi, and I thought that was weird. But then I was like reading a book and recognized that they avoid physical contact. Lastly, you need to be honest with your therapist. They can't help you if they can't get all the facts. And even sometimes when they have all the facts, the way that you told it, because you have your own beliefs and judgments, can be inaccurate. So you really need to be as honest as you can. They shouldn't be judging you. And you also need to be honest with them about how it's going. So I was thinking this week, maybe I need to tell my therapist that I feel like I don't feel like we have a good dynamic, because I don't know if she thinks that I have it all together. But she also indicated yesterday that she was trying to conceptualize how to help me. So maybe that's a problem. I'm not being clear enough. I think I'm being clear, but that's just it. It's me. But I just know the effect I have on people. So I'm trying to be easy on her for not giving me what I want immediately. But I think we should also be willing to give that feedback. And if you just don't like the therapist, I don't know how I would do with a therapist I didn't like. If you don't like them, don't go to them. Find somebody else. Because you're going to be doing a lot of work with them, and you're going to have to trust them. So if you don't like them, just find somebody else. I will also say, at me being an interracial relationship, our first therapist was a Black woman, partly because my Black friends went to her, and some of the issues we were having were like race related. So I wanted somebody who could help represent me, because my husband wasn't really understanding what I was trying to get across or what my concerns were. So if you're picking a marriage counselor, be sure to consider who everybody is, like a compromise of who both of you are going to relate to. Our therapist now is a white woman because that's all we could get. But I'm very happy with her. I'm very impressed by her. And I think that you guys, I wish I could refer her to you, but she only practices in Missouri, and she be booked. But I hope that this is helpful. I hope that you're encouraged. I hope that some of the fear, anxiety has been diminished, and I hope that the barrier to entry is a little bit lower for you guys, because Therapy, it should be a part of everybody's life. We can all use it, and even it might not be all the time, it might just be some seasons, but I do think that people should feel like it's a tool that they have to use when the need be. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to my channel, like my Facebook page, and like the video. Please leave me a comment. What do you think about therapy? Do you go to therapy? Do you hate it? Have you had good experiences, bad experiences? I want to know about it. I hope to hear some stories or hear some people say that they are thinking they might be ready to go to counseling. I don't know. Anyway, until next time, guys.